Matt Wilbur finds a home in the WNBA. St. Catherine ceases operation, which paves the way for Kevin Williamson to take over men's basketball at Dakota Wesleyan. Cascade Hoops Talk starts right now. Kevin Williamson spent 5 seasons at St. Catherine, winning 19, 20, and 23 games, respectively, his last 3 years there. Kevin Williamson has been around the horn, you might say. He coached in high school. He coached at assistant coach at Bemidji State, Dixie State, which is now Utah Tech. He was head coach at a community college up in northern Washington. We'll talk about that. University of Minnesota Duluth, he assisted. CSU San Marcos. Kevin Williamson has been a successful coach at many levels, a ton of experience, and now he's the head coach at Dakota Wesleyan, coaching there in the beautiful Corn Palace. What an honor that is, and we talk about that. Let's take a listen to Kevin Williamson. He's the head men's basketball coach, Dakota Wesleyan. Cascade Hoopstock, Billy D. Hey, I got Kevin Williamson. He's the new head men's basketball coach at Dakota Wesleyan. Also, my first interview of the season, season 6. I had to get out my gear, dust it off. Thanks a lot, Coach, for being my season 6 first guinea pig.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Bill. I really appreciate it. Big fan of what you've been doing for NAIA basketball.
So, Coach, you were at St. Catherine. Quite a run there in the Cal Pac. I think last 3 years you won over 20 games. You gave Arizona Christian quite the scare. Really, really good game in the first round of the NAIA tournament. Talk a little bit about your run at St. Catherine and how you felt. Why do you feel you were able to be so successful there?
Yeah, I know we had a great run at USK, and I was super fortunate to have just got the players, honestly, that I had got when I was there to come with me and believe in what we were trying to do there. And when it's all said and done, it all comes down to your administration and your players. And for me, Alyssa Ramos was huge for me as an athletic director to hire me and take me on and, just work with me there on that side. And then the players that we had were just incredible. We had some really, really good players that walked through the door. And so that made everything significantly easier. Multiple players, are on to Division I and Division II schools from, now a closed down university, unfortunately. So we had some really good players come through there. We were extremely fortunate to kind of make the advances that we made as a university while I was there. And I think that is what made it so good as a basketball program. The guys worked extremely hard, and we had unbelievably limited resources, and we kind of got creative. I always try to give thanks to guys. My main assistant that started it with me, Travis Timmons, who's now at William Jessup. Those guys were just key in being able to do what we did early to get the foundation set. And kind of get things going, but it takes a village when you have no resources, and our village worked extremely hard, I guess is the best way to say it, and the guys around us did a phenomenal job.
Coach, you touched on St. Catherine closing. You have this great season. You had a shot to beat at the end to beat Arizona Christian. You fell a little short. You had to be a lot of excitement. And then on late April 25th, exactly, you get the news that they're ceasing operations. Just talk about the emotions surrounding that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wild ride at the end. I guess I'll start with the Arizona Christian game. We actually had 4 chances to tie or win, and we couldn't get any of the 4 to go down. And it was a roller coaster ride to get there of the season. We had just broke the the record. We broke our own record from the previous year of wins on a season, and it definitely was trending up. We had 14 possible players returning, and all 14 were coming back in the spring, which is kind of unheard of during the transfer portal time. But I think that's where we had built the culture up to. And so we had all 14 guys returning. We had started up our open gyms and our strength training program with our strength coach, and like everything was rolling and going again. And literally when I got this random email that had never been sent before from our president, just on a random Thursday afternoon saying we are done, I was actually on the phone with a recruit booking his flight to come on a visit. Like I was sitting in my office on the phone on Southwest Air booking his flight, and was planning a visit to bring him in, and all I hear is this huge commotion come out of the locker room. And our group is an extremely quiet group that's extremely like well behaved, and that's like completely out of the norm for our group. And I run over to the stair ledge that kind of looks over into our weight room area and kind of yell out, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And they're like, "Read your email." And I'm on the phone with the kid, and I got to put him on mute. And I read the email, and then I'm like, put the kid off mute. "Hey, I got to call you back." And then I had to go deal with that with the team, walking out of open gym because it was at 4:00 and our team had open gym if they wanted to go from 3 to 5. So it was kind of a wild experience, and you're just kind of sitting there and, you're just talking to them as you're reading the email, and you're like, man, we're really shutting down. Like, this is out of the blue because 6 weeks earlier we got an email from our president saying how great everything was.
Yeah.
So it was really, really out of the blue. The Tuesday before that, we were doing fundraising meetings as an admin team, talking about how to rent out our gym through the summer. And I think the Friday before that, we announced that we were starting golf. So like there was absolutely no notice to any of us, including our athletic director, that this was going to happen. So it was really out of the blue. You're sitting there in front of a group, like, how do you handle this? And, when you get done with that, you're like, man, I don't have a job anymore. Yeah. Like that's kind of the last thing you think of. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I had 14 guys returning. We had good recruits coming in, and, then you get hit with that news just out of the blue. So it was a huge roller coaster from March 15th to whatever was April 25th. And that 1 month was an absolute roller coaster for anybody.
We'll have to see how things play out, but it really leaves the Cal Pac really without, and no disrespect to any of the schools there, but St. Catherine, Merced, and Antelope Valley have really always kind of been the anchor schools there. And you guys and Antelope Valley both ceased basketball the same season. So anyway, we'll just have to see there.
Yeah, and you have Merced leaving to Division II once this season's over.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
So it'll be down to 5, and so they'll have to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, and geographically, they're really challenged with how they can disperse. So anyway, we'll have to see. I wish nothing but the best to all those programs, but
it's tough. And I know the GSAC's just trying to figure out how they're going to do their new thing too, because we were supposed to be in that GSAC with 9 teams. It's geographically a huge issue.
So I want to kind of pivot to your background. You have a really deep background. I mean, you've head coached it in high school. You've assisted at almost every level. You were at Dixie State, which is now Utah Tech, Minnesota Duluth, CSU San Marcos. You were at Bemidji State. You were at Glendale Community College. So you have a deep set of experiences. I have a couple questions about that. So St. Catherine was your first head coaching job in college.
Well, my first one, I did 1 year as a head coach at Grays Harbor College up in Washington. And then I got the offer to go be the head coach or go be the main assistant at Cal State San Marcos.
Is Gray Harbor, are those the Chokers?
Yeah, the Chokers. Yeah.
That is the most bizarre. I know where it comes from, obviously, but it comes from the Timberlands. But it's the most bizarre mascot name I've ever heard. My friend and I joke about it all the time.
Yeah, especially for an athletic sport. It is about as unique as it gets, and they love that thing up there. They love that as a culture.
Yeah,
because that's their background. Yep.
You were at Grays Harbor Community College as a head coach, but you get to St. Catherine's, your first 4-year NAI head coaching job. What were some of the things that surprised you in your head coaching spots that you hadn't seen as an assistant? And then what had you learned from your mentors as you came up through? What were the key learnings that you could look back on that pulled you through that?
Yeah, I had some really good mentors, and especially Matt Bowen, who I was with for 5 years at Bemidji State in Minnesota Duluth. I learned a lot from Matt off the court, probably even more than on the court. And I think I'd take a lot of that from him in terms of how to operate, how to be unbelievably creative financially, how to kind of see outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us get locked in with blinders on, going straight forward, and we can't see the 360 picture. I think Matt Bowen was incredible at being able to do that. The stuff that we did in our 2 years at Bemidji State was pretty wild for how low of resources Bemidji had at that time. Up in the NSIC, which is a power Division II conference with so many national championships in it in basketball. And, we were able to win that conference one of the 2 years I was there, which is unheard of at Bemidji. So, kind of figuring out, kind of like Moneyball, the movie, that's kind of what Matt and I were doing at Bemidji. And so I had to take a lot of that and do that because I've always been at the non-Division I level. And you have to be unbelievably creative with resources.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I learned that from my time with Matt, not just at Bemidji, but at Duluth as well. And so I take how he always worked with people and interacted, not just with the community, but administrators and people academically. And so I took a lot from Matt on that side. And then basketball-wise, working at Utah Tech, when I was there, Dixie State, with John Judkins, who's I think the all-time winningest coach of any sport in the entire state of Utah's history.
Oh my goodness!
He's that incredible of a coach in the state of Utah in terms of number of wins. You get to work with a guy like that, and you're going to learn X's and O's like no other. And that's what I did there. I got a ton of X's and O's, and education and basketball is on the court is what I really got. And he was really good at not just that, but team management, team strategies. And so I was able to take a lot from those two mentors. And a lot of what we've done there is what I've implemented in my program. And then, taking it to USK, my first year at USK was this random weird one building, like house hut of an academic building.
Yeah.
It did not show well. It was unbelievably tough to recruit guys there. And then we had to drive 20 minutes to practice on sport courts that were like 20 minutes away from us. And we would play games at whatever community college could host us in the city that night. And so I kind of took how do you be really good at coaching and concise from Coach Judkins? And then how do you get the most out of what you got from Matt Bowen? And I think having those experiences significantly shaped how St. Cat's got started the way it did.
You made a really interesting point about the resources, and because if your resources are limited, like you were talking about, you really can't afford mistakes on who you bring in.
Yeah. And not just who you bring in, but how you operate, because if you spend too much, then you can't get through the season, or you can't take care of the guys the way you want to take care of them. And so you have to be super creative with funds and where you're going to spend things and where you're going to hold back on. And that is, for a lot of coaches, a huge, huge challenge.
Had a great run there at St. Catherine. It didn't end the way you wanted it to, but Matt Wilbur gets an amazing opportunity. The job in Mitchell at Dakota Wesleyan opens up, and you apply and get that job. Talk about how excited you must have been. Very excited when you got offered that job in Mitchell.
Yeah, it was a very unique experience. I had applied to the position, obviously before St. Catherine closed down. It was a job that I knew about. I had met Coach Wilbur at the 2017 Final Four in Phoenix. Was the first time I met him, and had randomly kept in contact with him here and there. And then when the job opened and I saw that he was moving onward, upward, I called him because I'd heard about how good the job was. And I drove past it in recruiting cycles and stuff up here back when I was at Bemidji and Duluth. And so I had a conversation with them about it. I did a first and a second round interview. And then the job at St. Cat's actually closed. And when it closed, Ross and Jason sent me a very just, respectful text of, man, we're sorry. We just heard about, St. Catherine, and, let's stay in touch here over the next few days. We're going to give you a few days to get through this. And then I think the next week they said, hey, we're going to look at bringing you in for an interview. Does next week work? And I'm like, my schedule just cleared up pretty dramatically. Yeah, I can be up there. And so, and when that changed and it got to that point, it was pretty exciting. It's, it's one of those jobs. I knew they were in a national championship game back when I was here at Duluth. Like we'd heard about that over there. And so we watched it and stuff on ESPN3, but, we had known about the job, and I've known this is a basketball culture here in the state, and it's a basketball culture here in Mitchell. And, I've seen and I've heard as I'm walking around town about the corn crib crazies, and I can't wait to see them in effect on a weeknight, on a Wednesdays and Thursday night games. I hear they're pretty wild.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to ask you about is, so I've always been a fan, and that's one of the things that I love about small college basketball is you go into these facilities and it's just so much fun, especially playoff games or big conference games, where they pack them out. Sometimes smaller venues are better than bigger venues, and each location, each school has its own personality, would you say? And if you coach in a conference for a number of years, you know what to expect when you walk into Dort, which everybody says is the toughest place to play. You know what to expect when you walk into Concordia. Two questions. As a coach, does the crowd situation, do you even notice it at all, or does it affect you? And number two, you're going to be coming around into gyms for the first time. Will that add any difficulty to your first season?
I don't really notice the crowd that much. Whatever venue we were at, I love when the venues, obviously like any coach, you love when they're packed. It creates the atmosphere. The guys get amped up for it. It's just fun. It's what small college is supposed to be about, especially in local communities with the support for it. It's supposed to be that way. So I'm just very fortunate that I get to walk into it where it's been established.
Yeah.
And, I don't notice it that much. I would say the biggest thing I noted, and my former assistants will get a laugh when they hear this, but they know I'm a little hard of hearing out of one of my ears. And sometimes when the crowd gets loud, they'll know I'm yelling extremely loud, and they'll be like, hey, coach, they can hear you, tone it down a little bit. Like, I'd say that's about the only thing that it affects with me. I've been to enough of them at playing and in coaching to have been in the venues where they're super packed and they're really big. And I've also, unfortunately, been the ones where they're super empty and there's 30 people in the crowd and you can count them, and those are no fun, whether you're a coach or a player. But I think the only thing it affects for me is just, my hearing for it and making sure the guys understand the message I'm trying to get to them while they're on the court. And I think it's more for the guys and the players. I think it's just the greatest experience when you got an arena of 3,000 and you got 2,500 or more packed in there. I think those are like the lifelong memories that guys take with them, that they talk about more than the win or the loss that night. Is they'll probably drop in, hey, we beat so-and-so on a Tuesday, but you remember there was 3,500 people and this person did this in the crowd or whatever. I think as I'm walking around and I'm talking to these guys that are here this summer, that's kind of the stuff they always talk about. And, it's one of the things in recruiting here that the seniors are like, we came here because, we saw the Corn Palace packed and that's what we wanted to play in. And so like, that is a pretty cool, unique venue here in this state, is that the South Dakota guys, the recruits, they know how cool this environment is to play in.
I've been to rivalry games and everybody has, where there's just standing room only, 50-50 for the home and visitors. Can't hear yourself think in there. And I purposely watch the faces of the players when they go out for the jump ball to start the game. Huge grins as they shake hands. It's an environment every player dreams of, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's what they all want, and they crave it. And I'm just glad that our community supports it the way they do. It's something I haven't, at St. Catherine, they did the best they could for a school that didn't have much brand exposure right next to the big Cal State school. But when we would put 200 people in the gym on a rivalry night, it was loud because of the wood roof, and then
Right.
we could only really put in about 2 people, or 200 people is
Mm-hmm.
about the most we could put in. So I like that was a great little environment for them because of the noise. But this is the noise plus the bodies in there. So
Exactly.
I've seen the photos and the still shots. Of them, they look pretty amped up when the Corn Cribs Crazies are in there on the weekdays. They look like they're having the time of their lives out there.
What has been your reception there in Mitchell?
Yeah, it's been I've been trying to get out and meet a bunch of people. It's been good. Jason Christensen here has been introducing me to the people that I need to get to know in town. I've been connecting with our alumni slowly. Coach Wilbur, I just ran into him. He was here on a break from the WNBA,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife's our volleyball coach. So I just bumped into him, and he's been helping me connect with a bunch of his former players as we're trying to kind of connect the staffs together and the alumni together, not just Coach Wilbur, but Coach Doug Martin before him. We're trying to connect people with the program to stay involved, like alumni days, et cetera. And we're working with our alumni office. So a lot of my summer has been really about three things: working with the guys who are here in the community or in the area that drive in on the court, since you're allowed to do that up through today. It's been doing that. It's been recruiting to finish off our 24 roster and get started on 25. And then three has been kind of walking around, meeting people. And I've been doing multiple golf tournaments where I have to get in there to meet the people in terms of where we got to get, and just doing a lot of friend raising. And that's really been what I've been doing all summer. And it has been a ton that we've put in here to meet people here in the community.
Coach, I'm sure you've been drinking from a fire hose ever since you got up there. But as you do your studying around the GPAC, I mean, it's a. You and I texted about this when you got the job, but it's a buzzsaw, and
Yep.
every year it's just upset city. It seems like every week, the trips into Northwestern and Sioux City at Dort, over at Morningside. I'm going to leave teams out, but Briarcliff. They're all just everything is a tough trip. Everything. As you look around the GPAC, just talk about the GPAC, what you're excited about, what you're nervous about.
Yeah, man, I'm nervous top to bottom, and these are good teams.
Mm-hmm.
I've played a few of them, and I've known the coach at Doane personally, for a long time. He's a Cali guy, so I've known the league. I've known about it. I took out of high school. Or before my senior year started, I took multiple visits to multiple schools in the conference. So I knew about the conference. Like I visited Doane, I visited Hastings
Mm.
when I was a high school player before my senior year got started. So I kind of know the region. I'm learning the teams. Concordia has always been good. They've just always been a top program. So is Morningside. They've been one of those programs that's been in there a long time. I mean, you're looking at the top three of this league last year, and they're 15-5 each. And you're getting 5 teams into the national tournament. So it's unbelievably deep conference. It's unbelievably talented. It's very even natured in roster. I think how the scholarshiping in the GPAC works, I think it keeps it that way. And I think it can keep everybody fairly competitive, so you don't get very many nights off, if any. And that's really, I think, the unique challenge of having an 11-team league that's about 11 teams deep of talented teams that if you were to take our 10th and 11th team and put them into most other conferences, they're probably finishing in the top half.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a unique situation to be in with how good this conference is. I mean, I think you had like 4 or 5 teams in this league last year with 20-plus wins, a lot of tradition. So, I think that's what you fight. And I think that that's, kind of the difference for me coming into it is I've got to kind of learn what all the coaches' nuances are, which will be a little bit different. And you got to figure out what each team is all about and what they're trying to do. And you've really got to scout them out because it's one of the best scouted, leagues in the country. Like the coaches work unbelievably hard in this.
Coach, I missed this at the start, but I didn't see it in your bio. But where did you grow up? You were talking about going high school, going to trips there in the GPAC.
Yeah, so I went to high school in a small town called Sedona, Arizona, north of
Okay.
Flagstaff.
Yeah,
Yep. And
familiar
so I
with
had
it.
played in a couple of AAU tournaments in the Omaha area, and I did pretty well. And so a bunch of them had seen me out there. when I was out there. And so I was like, senior year hasn't got started. I'll go take some early trips. And that's what I ended up doing. But I was actually born in San Diego. And then, somewhere in my formative early age, like 8th grade or something, we moved to Sedona, or 7th grade, moved to Sedona. So, kind of split my life into two.
A guy who was born in San Diego and then grew up in Sedona. What were those? What were you at Duluth a year or two? That must have been unbelievable for you.
Duluth, we did 3 years at Duluth, and one of the winters at Duluth, it stayed. We almost set a world record. We were pretty close. I think it was the winter of 2013. It was like the most. We were like 5 days off of the most consecutive days at or under zero as like a world record. It was like 90 days or something. So that was not just cold; it was unbelievably cold. And it's like, I learned about a lake effect being at Duluth, which is not the case at Bemidji. Bemidji's just cold and windy. I could deal with that, but you get hit with one storm at Duluth with 10 inches, and then 3 days later you get hit again by the same
Yeah.
storm coming back around with 6 more, and that was just like never ending to me. So that was definitely an adjustment. I loved my time at Bemidji. I loved my time in Duluth with Matt, it was great. I met my wife in Bemidji.
Oh,
She's
okay.
from LA. She's from Los Angeles, but she was a track and field coach at Bemidji, and that's how we met. And then we ended up getting married later on. So, the Midwest holds a special place in my heart. That's why I was wanting to come back.
Tell the fans in the GPAC and there at Dakota Wesleyan, what can they expect to see?
Yeah, I usually build a pretty skilled group offensively, especially 1 through 4s, and then traditionally I've got some pretty big horses inside in the paint at the 5s, and so we're definitely going to be a defensive-minded team that's cares a lot about rebounding. Our rebounding margin over the last 3 years has been plus 10 over our opponents, and I think that's kind of what's big for us, is kind of focusing on that, and then trying to turn those defensive rebounds into transition and trying to get the pace up. And I know the GPAC plays a little bit slower pace, and so we're going to be battling that and seeing how that transitions into it. Typically, our teams have a really, really good assist to turnover ratio. We move the ball. We're a very unselfish group. I think one time I had a player average 16 and a half or 17 points per game. His name is Cody Clouette. He's now going to be playing his last year at the University of San Diego Toreros. That was my leading scorer, like highest scorer ever at St. Catherine. So typically my teams have a lot of guys that are averaging between about 15 and 7 or 8 going down to our 8th or 9th man. So we play a pretty deep group. And I like to have good competition and practice of a deep.
Coach, you're known as a coach that really emphasizes academics and life outside the gym, successful life outside the gym. Talk about that.
Yeah, I kind of learned this in my time with Matt, especially being at Duluth. Was, for me, I really care about guys kind of succeeding in the 3 C's. Being really, really good in our community, being really good in the classroom. And I think if you're doing those 2 things well, you'll be able to win championships on your competition court. And so I just call it the 3 C's. And so I'm really big on that. We had an unbelievable graduation rate of guys who exhausted their eligibility with us. I think we were 27 out of 28. And I think we moved on of that 4 different Division II grad transfers and one guy who ended up being a Division I player in the end. Like we really cared about graduating our players and trying to do what was best for them, regardless of the program. And I think that's kind of selfless nature. Again, I kind of talk about a selfless team. I think that selfless nature as a coach and a program is what did us so well. I think guys know that if they came in, we would do what was best for them academically if they were holding up their end of the bargain, which is part of what we really talk about when guys get in here. But I was an academic. I was a Daktronics NAIA scholar athlete myself, 2-time guy at the University of Great Falls, now called Providence. And I did that in 2 sports. So I'm really, really key on academics. I know what it can do for your life. I know that it cannot just change your life, but it can generationally change families. with the right education, the right degree that leads them to the right career field. And I'm really, really big on that. So I think if guys come in and they really want to be here and they want to be a part of this, and they're not just coming for basketball, I think you get that deeper buy-in where guys are going to be ingrained in the community. They're going to want to get to know the local people, and they're going to want to be really good in the classroom. I think that just carries over to the court.
Yeah, it's so important. I think as a general rule, the NAI has done a really good job the last 10 years really emphasizing the student athlete. You see it on the campuses. A lot of campuses I go to as I tour around and I talk to some of the professors, they tell the common theme is that the student athletes are the best students on campus, which 20 years ago wasn't the case. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. The academics and the nature of the player, the student athlete at this level has dramatically changed, and the mindset of it has changed. And I just really think you get kids who are just unbelievably grateful for the opportunity to get to play collegiate sports at the NAI level. I think at Division I, sometimes there's that entitlement feel of like, I was brought up, I'm so good, like I should be getting X, Y, and Z things for this. And I just think the humble nature of the kid, it's like, man, I just really want to play college sports. I don't care the level, I just want to play. I think that has also helped evolve the student part of student athlete. And I think that we're getting better and better every year. I know our team's GPA was incredible. My five years at St. Catherine, I think we averaged like a 3.38 over 5 years, 10 semesters. Like the academic accomplishments of our group probably outweighed even our athletic ones. And again, I just thought that carryover was critical. And I kind of learned that, again, being with Matt Bowen, I kind of learned that. And I think that he had a huge effect on me caring about that and knowing that helps translate.
Well, Coach Williamson, I really appreciate you taking so much time to sit with me this morning. Really excited to, I'm excited for basketball to start. I'm really excited to see you get going there at Dakota Wesleyan. Everybody who follows me knows that I follow the GPAC fairly close. It's one of the most competitive conferences in the country. And I'm just ready for basketball, Coach.
We'll have to get you in here, Bill, and get you in here on a weeknight and really get your opinion later on how you feel about the environment at the world's only corn palace, and get you in here. Easy trip from Sioux Falls, about a 60-minute drive straight in.
Well, Coach, really, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the time, and we'll get you on as the season goes on and you get in the heart of that GPAC buzzsaw.
Yeah, it really is, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to you checking in on us mid-season and maybe catch my thoughts now on what the GPAC looks like midway through.
That's Kevin Williamson. He's the head men's basketball coach at Dakota Wesleyan. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot to Kevin Williamson. Give us that time. He's, as you know, the new head men's basketball coach there at Dakota Wesleyan. Think about that. He's at University of St. Catherine. He's having a lot of success there. Think about that emotional roller coaster he went through. They lost in that last-second loss to Arizona Christian in the first round of the playoffs. Comes back home. The school ceases operations. He's standing there wondering what in the world's going to happen. And he ends up going to Dakota Wesleyan to coach in the GPAC at Dakota Wesleyan, one of the more historic programs in the country. We wish him well there, and we just can't wait for basketball to start and GPAC basketball. Hey, there's more coming for you next week. We're going to talk to Andrew Wingreen and Drew Lutz over at New College of Florida next week. As you know, they're a new NAI team. They just be excited to hear what they'll have going on next year in the Sun Conference. Also, we're going to talk to Chase Teichman. He's head men's basketball coach now at Georgia Gwinnett, a school that has a long athletic history, but they just announced they're going to start men's basketball. So we're hoping Coach Teichman can kind of fill us in with what's going on there at Georgia Gwinnett. Hey, enjoy the rest of your summer. Look forward to the shows next week. And as always, give us a follow. This is Billy D. Talk to you later. Thank you very much for supporting our podcast. Please like and subscribe. Get out to your local NAI school because NAI basketball is the best entertainment value in America.